Yo, what's up guys, Lord Senna here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the new combat changes. If you're a regular watcher of the channel, you already know that move stacking was going to get changed a few days ago. I did not expect this change to happen so quickly and without rigorous testing, but it did happen, and today we have the move stacking changes, and they're here. The player base is pretty divided. I think the majority of people do not like the new changes, but I think it's a really good thing for the game and I think it's incredibly healthy. In this video I'm going to be showing you the changes exactly, and providing some reasoning for why I think it's a good thing for the game. So move stacking, simply put, is when you M1 and then use a mantra right after. Previously, the M1 and the mantra animations would be conjoined so that the mantra would come out sooner than usual. But now you cannot do that. If you try and do it, then the mantra will actually activate after the entire M1 swing is over. Now here is why move stacking was a bad thing for the game. It's because using a spell and M1 in one animation is unreactable. Like, there's no way to counter that unless you can predict it coming. And Deepwoken's entire concept as a game is not meant to be about prediction, it's meant to be about reaction. These changes make it so that you can actually defend against every single attack in the game, so long as you actually know how to defend in a given situation. Previously, you just have to roll a dice and guess whether your opponent is going to move stack or not, and if you guessed wrong, well, that's the Ice 1 combo that's gonna take 80% of your HP. Now there is no guessing involved. If you see a spell, you just parry it. If you see an M1, you just parry it. That's simply how the game is meant to be played. And if you're having issues with these changes, you just have to adapt to the new meta, which is to actually rely on M1s. Now here's a situation where move stacking was really OP beforehand. So basically what players would do, they would normally, let's say you're an Ice user, right? You would M1, and you'd feint the M1, so your opponent wastes their parry, right? They have no parry window. Then you M1 again, and they have to dodge it, and you would use Ice Lance, and essentially you'd hit them with Ice Lance for free, because they would try to M1 you back. And there's nothing your opponent can do about it, they just get hit by the Ice Lance, and then lose all their HP. Now, while I do agree with these changes on the whole, they definitely aren't perfect, because they don't address how heavy users are actually going to play the game, because heavy users rely a lot on move stacking just to be able to hit their M1s, because people are just way faster, and they know how to parry heavy hits a lot more reliably. So heavy users used to like stack with Gale Lunge or Ice Lance, and then that would be the way that they land M1s. But now they don't really have any option to do that, so the developers haven't addressed how heavy users are meant to play the game. And maybe they can give them some new talents or stuff like that to compensate. So I played about 30 arena matches today after the change. I lost twice, once to a Cryptblade user with no animations, so that's kind of excusable. The other time was to a Flame Charm user. That was a legit loss. It's kind of just like choked up, and that fight was an L. But overall, fighting Frost Draw and Gale Breath users is so much easier now because they can't rely on Ice Lance or Gale Lunge as much to reliably hit M1s. And as you can see, this Ice user just does not know what to do now that his move stacking is nerfed. They do try and hold A and D and spam mantras, but that doesn't work if you know how to parry. Because the threat of spamming mantras was only like a realistic thing because they could have that threat on top of the additional move stacks. That is why that was so potent. Now if you consider the fact that they don't have the move stacks to rely on and you just defend against a mantra spam, it becomes so much more bearable, and you'll win just by M1ing them. Fights against good players are a lot more slow-paced, which in my opinion is a good thing. People think that's a bad thing, but I don't see why that's the case. Now it becomes like a lot more skill-oriented, and who can consistently have the strongest performance without making too many mistakes. Before it was just, if you made one mistake, then you're kind of just dead, and this change definitely addresses that. This change also makes fighting higher levels as a low level a lot easier, because it makes a lot of the crutches that high level players have access to, like giant modifications and like move stacks that do 70% of your HP, less viable, and they have to rely more on the base M1 combat, which means that if you're a skilled player you can do some better outplays. But yeah, in general I really like these changes, and I see that a lot of people are complaining, and I feel like if you guys just get adjusted to it, then it'll be fine. Like, Deepwoken was not meant to be played how it has been played for the past month or so. Once the developers work something out to satiate the heavy users, I think this will be fine. Like, the game is in a pretty good state right now, and I do feel like I have a lot of fun playing the combat. A lot more fun than, you know, the frustrating Fist and Ice 1 combos. Oh, let's talk about Fist, by the way. Fist got its range reduced by 1, and I think this is a great change because it didn't really make sense that it felt like a Fist user had the same range as my Shadow Katana build. Now Fist is in a spot where if you have a longer range weapon, you can kind of kite them, but if they play optimally, they can kind of get up in your face and do a ton of damage, which is kind of how that class is meant to be played. It's not meant to be a jack of all trades. It's meant to be a high damaging, low range weapon. Alright guys, I know most of you are going to disagree with me on this one, so let me know why in the comments, and I'll be sure to respond. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.